Tucked away behind Senator Frank O'Connor College School is the former home of the school's namesake. As the founder of Laura Secord and a man of great political influence, Senator Frank Patrick O'Connor never forgot his family's humble beginnings. His generosity and impact are remembered in the recently restored home, now known as O'Connor House.
My first view of the school was peeking in through the bushes as I drove along to locate the school, and I was taken by the gripping view of the O'Connor estate. I thought, I can't believe they have this beautiful house here.
Thinking of Senator O'Connor's political activities, if those walls could talk, there'd be some really interesting stories, because Mackenzie King was here. Maurice Duplessis, the infamous Prime Minister of Quebec, was here. Mitchell Hepburn, the equally infamous Premier of Ontario, was here.
O'Connor House is what we would call Georgian revival, or at a stretch, Jeffersonian neoclassicism.
It was loosely based on neoclassical stylings from Europe. In the States, a lot of the older colonial homes from the late 18th and 19th century was done in that style. And in Toronto, because we came a little later in that, it seemed to be kind of a revival of a revival.
There's no doubt that the grand entrance, the portico, the entrance doorway, this hallway, this elegant staircase leading up to the windows are the strongest architectural statement of the house.
Senator O'Connor College School, the modern look of it is very appealing. One reason is because of the beautiful windows that offer a panoramic view, especially of the O'Connor House.
The architecture is great. The open concept is amazing because it allows so much light to just pour through in the school. And the fact that it is on old ground, it just pays the attention to the fact that, you know, history is not forgotten. As you can see, the house is right behind me, and it just kind of brings us back to our roots.
Frank O'Connor was born in Deseronto, Ontario in 1885, and his father was Patrick O'Connor, who, at the age of 4 years old, emigrated from Ireland at the time of the famine.
O'Connor went to work in a factory in Peterborough in the early part of the century, and due to a chance encounter at a meeting of Roman Catholic religious in Baltimore in 1912, I think it was, he met a man from Poland whom he and his brother befriended and gave him some meals and let him share their room. And in return, he said, I don't have any money, but I have this. And he handed them a recipe for chocolate.
Laura Secord Chocolates was a family affair. Frederick O'Connor, Frank's brother, was the chemist, and Mary Ellen, his wife, was the setting, and Frank O'Connor was the businessman. They pulled together the idea of Laura Secord candies. Started in Peterborough, came to Toronto in 1913.
Frank O'Connor first opened shop at 354 Yonge Street in 1913. He chose the name Laura Secord on the 100th anniversary of this Canadian heroine's famous walk during the War of 1812. At the time, this was a brand that would appeal to all Canadians.
He became very successful. The business expanded into America under the name of Fannie Farmer Candies. The whole idea was that Laura Secord was open and accessible by people of all walks of life. And when you get there, it's a lovely, relaxing atmosphere. There's no advertising except just the very simple black signature of the Laura Secord and the Victorian image of her face. So black and white, very simple places, but a place where people would visit every day and feel at home. In 1928, O'Connor had begun to assemble land up in this area. He bought 3 farms that he renamed into Maryvale after his daughter Mary.
This was the site of 2 international plowing matches, which is, having been Minister of Agriculture, I can tell you that is the event of the year in agricultural circles. Well, the estate basically ran from roughly the Parkway to about Warden, and from about Lawrence to the 401. So Maryvale School, which is at Pharmacy and Ellesmere, takes its name from the estate. And in fact, if you go a block north of here, you'll see some big white gates at the corner of Cassandra and Victoria Park Avenue. That was the entrance to the estate. Those white brick gates were put there by O'Connor.
Frank O'Connor's Maryvale estate stretched along Victoria Park Avenue. The property included a residence and 3 farms. The route between Maryvale and the city was soon named O'Connor Drive, also known to O'Connor and his friends as the Driveway.
He built the house in Maryvale in 1932. It was lots of different people who owned extravagant houses, and in that period particularly they built them because income tax was coming in. So they built these grand estates. So this became his place. He moved here, he had a cook, he had his chauffeur, his housekeeper. This became his primary residence, so to speak, as a senator. And so he lived here 1932 to 1939. But he's building this place for entertainment, for his friends, for the Liberal Party. This is a great mansion for lavish entertainment. And the acme of hospitality, somebody said, for the Liberal Party. At the height of the Hepburn government, a lot of it took place at the King Edward Hotel. But this became the place to recover, so to speak. So people would come here. In fact, Maurice Duplessis, the Premier of Quebec, stayed here, as did Mitch Hepburn. And Mackenzie King, the Prime Minister, visited him here.
Since we started on this process of restoration, a lot of information has surfaced about Senator Frank Patrick O'Connor, the descendant of Irish immigrants, and we found his history, which was one of success, of achievement, of philanthropy, of generosity, carried through in the design and the way in which this house was built. The fact that we were still able to restore it after almost 10 years of neglect is because it was very well built in the first place. So I think it was a carrying through of the quality of the man into the quality of the house.
The senator passed away in August of 1939, just before the outbreak of war, at a very young age. He was only 54. And the property, approximately 800 acres, was turned over, according to the terms of his will, to the Christian Brothers. Over time, all of the 800 acres of the estate were developed for housing and commerce, except for the land we're on now, Senator O'Connor College School and the estate.
1976, we had about 1,000 students. As time moved on, we had close to 1,400. So it became the need to have portables. We ended up with 20 portables, as well as a porta-pack, as well as a lynch building. And in the center was our jewel, which was the OConnor Estate Home.
We were originally hired to design the new Senator O'Connor High School in 1999. And at that time, these buildings, which comprised the house we're in, the coach house and the gardener's shed, were all in fully usable operating condition and were occupied by the Brothers of Christian Schools. As the design of the high school progressed and the high school got built, the house was still occupied occasionally by a teacher or by the principal. John Dean lived here during 2001 and 2002. After his departure, a decision was made by the school board not to include these buildings in the school program.
So finally in 2005, after great support from our parent community as well as the board, we were able to move into our brand new school. And at that point, the Lynch building had been taken away, as well as the O'Connor building. The one thing we were hoping for when we moved into the new school in 2005, that an extension to it would be the O'Connor house. But due to money and budget, we weren't able to keep the house, and it was boarded up.
Then the buildings became empty and gradually became the subject of extensive vandalism. They were disconnected from utilities, and generally their condition deteriorated quite rapidly over the subsequent 6 or 8 years.
The driving force behind saving this home was a combination of a group of teachers, Mr. Tom O'Brien, and Mary Fay. Mary Fay is a wonderful Irish Canadian who works for the Toronto Catholic District School Board and learned of the possibility that the buildings would in fact be demolished or at least abandoned, and working with the small group of teachers at O'Connor College School, worked tirelessly to raise the issue with the school board. In time, we were successful in getting the property designated as historic. And I have to give a lot of credit also to Dr. Richard Allway. Dr. Allway was the second government-appointed supervisor of the Toronto Catholic District School Board. And once he took over, the attitude of the senior staff of the board moved 180 degrees. They went from one day wanting to tear everything down to the next day, pushed, prodded, and led by Dr. Allway, saying, how can we help? And that's the spirit in which we've worked with the board ever since.
After years of fundraising and restoration of the 3 remaining structures, construction on the estate home, the gardener's shed, and the coach house could finally begin.
The restoration of the coach house was the first step in this process, except for the exterior work that was done on all the buildings to stabilize them at the beginning of the project. Inside, there were 4 bays for Senator O'Connor's. I think he had a Cadillac, had a gardener and a chauffeur that lived in the 2nd floor level. The 5th bay had a grease pit so that they could do maintenance on the cars as well. When we came to do work on the building, we wanted to convert it into more of a multi-use kind of classroom assembly space. We restored it, we installed a brand new mechanical, electrical system, new life safety system, so it was appropriate for use by students. It has a dividing wall in the center of it, so you can turn the one large classroom to 2 classrooms. We converted the garage doors, which were facing to the west, into 2 large opening doors, and then the intermediate bays were converted with windows so that they appear somewhat like the original garage doors, except with glass.
Students love the coach house. Right now we have drama and English classes in the coach house. It's just great to go into an old building, see it brought back to life after all of these years. I'm so happy that we were able to save the buildings so they can be used by students and by the whole community itself.
We knew we didn't want to turn into a classroom with typical whiteboards and desks. It had to be something that people could move in a fluid way and have lots of flexibility for the many cultural events that will be planned, now and in the future. But it allows a lot of room for the students to move and also to go into the courtyard to have little vignettes and sketches. It's ideal for that. Senator O'Connor College students only have access to the first floor of the O'Connor Coach House, and the upstairs will be sided by the O'Connor group. I understand a lot of it will be office space, perhaps archives, but our students will be using the first floor.
The school has access to the main floor of the coach house behind me during the day for much needed classroom space. The O'Connor House organization has access to the coach house at all other times and for the estate building on a 7/24 basis. We will operate the buildings on a permit basis at a nominal fee that will be competitive in the marketplace. Our intent is to let the community book the space to run programming and events. And our mission is based on culture, heritage, community, and education. And that mission is aligned with Frank O'Connor's values.
On the 10th anniversary of Laura Secord Candy Shops, Frank O'Connor presented his employees with a surprise gift, the first profit share program of its kind in the world. Many other acts of generosity were to follow, making him one of the most generous philanthropists in the history of Toronto.